This is Parasite Eve. Some would refer to it as the love child of Resident Evil and Final Fantasy. Others would refer to it as a weird Square RPG from the 90s. I referred to it as a game I love. Directed by Takashi Tokita, one of the directors of Chrono Trigger, Parasite Eve manages to fuse the survival horror and RPG genres along with a mature science fiction story into a game that really feels like a cinematic experience, which is something that this game prides itself on. I myself found this game just after delving into the survival horror genre. After finishing up the first 3 Resident Evil games and both Dino Crisis games for the PS1, I really wanted something else. So I got myself a copy of Silent Hill. When that game proved too damn scary for me at the time, I wanted to reel back and play a game that I could enjoy but didn't have things that weren't too goddamn scary. I somehow found Parasite Eve and loved it. Parasite Eve was originally released for the PS1 in 1998, but somehow made its way to the PlayStation Network in 2011, which is where I caught up with it. It probably made me like it even more since I had it on my PSP and could whip it out whenever I wanted to and play with it. Since then, I started a little collection of Parasite Eve stuff. I have the art book, the Parasite Eve 2 guidebook, the Parasite Eve soundtrack box that Square released in 2011. I even have the Parasite Eve Diva manga that from my understanding is pretty rare. I'm gonna have to blur that out. Of course, I also have the book that started it all, Parasite Eve by Hideaki Senna. Now, I think it's time I talk about the actual game. Without giving too much of the plot away, it centers around an NYPD officer by the name of Aya Brea who goes to an opera on Christmas Eve, and something bad happens. Something very bad happens. After that, it's up to Aya to figure out what happened and why she was unaffected by the incident to begin with. Along the way, we meet Daniel and his estranged son, Ben, along with the rest of the NYPD district that Aya pertains to. The main antagonist, Mitochondrial Eve, is someone who pretty much hates humanity and will never hesitate to kill a single person to reach her goal. She's awesome. To be honest, this game's story is just bizarre, but it's a very good bizarre because it's pretty sophisticated in its storytelling and will give you a couple science lessons along the way. This game features a real-time combat system. You can attack when the active time bar has filled. The time in between gives you the ability to dodge enemy attacks and charge up your Parasite Energy. Parasite Energy is sort of like a magic system that's unlocked with the experience you get after winning a battle. You can do anything from healing Aya, to charging a very powerful energy shot, to making sure that if you die you can come back in the same battle. In addition, throughout the entire game you can pick up armor and guns that you can heavily customize for the best stats. Imagine if in Resident Evil you could customize your knife to take out a hunter with a single strike. Well, you can do that here. At the beginning of the game you're given a club. The club does more damage than the gun, with the trade-off of having to be closer to your enemy, which will inevitably hurt you more. But with the use of tools, which are things that let you take stats from other weapons and add them onto a single one, you can customize this bad boy, and not only that, but other clubs will appear later in the game that are stronger, and because you can combine all the good stats, you're gonna have one hell of a weapon when you've merged all of them. Parasite Eve also hits hard in the sound department. Not only in the music, which I'll get to in a second, but also the sound design, which is just great in some parts. For instance, after you've won the very first fight in the game, you can hear the ghostly echoes of Aya's high heels as she walks across the stage. There's also no cheesy voice acting, as everything in this game is text-based. The music itself is just amazing. It was scored by Yoko Shimomura, who manages to take opera, techno, and piano, and make it sound amazing in unison. Parasite Eve in about 15 hours. However, once you beat it, you unlock the X game mode, which gives you access to the Chrysler Building. The Chrysler Building is Parasite Eve's ultimate dungeon. It is 77 floors of non-stop action as you not only fight the regular monsters that were in the game, but every 10 floors you fight a boss. And if that doesn't sound hard enough, every single floor is completely randomized. It is essentially a very long, very hard maze. If you prevail through all this and get to the final floor, you'll be met with Parasite Eve's true final boss and real ending. If I have any criticisms with Parasite Eve, it's that the grinding is a bit of a pain. The monsters generate whenever they feel like it, which sucks because moving from place to place can get a bit annoying due to Aya not being a very fast runner. There are also crucial items in certain parts that can be easily missed because you have to be in a precise spot in order to obtain them. This leads to backtracking, which with Aya is, again, annoying because she can't run very fast. The pre-rendered backgrounds are nice and very gritty. The CG varies from admittedly bad to pretty good. The CG style in this game is one that's very nice to watch. This game hasn't aged amazingly by any stretch of the imagination, but the CG does manage to catch your attention for the time needed. All in all, Parasite Eve is a great game with some minor flaws. Many would say that it's not a Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VII, but if you like those games, you'll definitely like this. The mature storyline and drastic change in atmosphere from those games will draw you in, but keep you playing as you explore this expansive tale of horror science fiction. Parasite Eve for the PlayStation 1 gets the first ever rating of Take My Money.